Hello, everybody. This is Sandra Pelli Sandini, Intuitive Inner Peace Mentor, the Dragon Ally, and the Galactic Shaman. I am thrilled to have you here today. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love it if you subscribed because your subscription to my channel makes a big difference in my world. And this is brought to you today by my book, A Spiritual How To, and it is found on most Amazons. This channel, Step into the Light, Step into Your Life, is a magical experience that a lot of people have in their lives when they decide to show up for themselves. And this is what I'm doing. I'm interviewing people who decide to show up for themselves. So as I mentioned, this is Step into the Light and Step into Your Life. I have the beautiful Zheela Vokes here, and I'm very excited to let you know a little bit more about her because I've known her for a number of years now, and she's been popping up in different places in my awareness, and we've started to have a little bit more conversations. The thing is that she lives in an entirely different hemisphere from myself. So us getting together to have conversations sometimes is a little bit more difficult. But let me just tell you a little bit about her before I let her speak. So just give me a moment here. So Zheela was born in the UK, and when she was 12 years old, her parents decided to move back to Pakistan, where they were originally from. Traumatic as this was at the time, this migration from west to east has had a huge influence on her approach to life ever since. Being clairvoyant from a young age, friends and family were always asking her if she could see or sense anything in their houses, etc. She's had many encounters over the years, but it has taken a journey of seeking and learning to truly understand the world of perception in the way that she does now. And there are many more mysteries to uncover. And what really comes up with this is that we are going to kind of deep dive into her runes and chakra work. And I just have so many questions, but first of all, hi, Zheela.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. And I'm really excited and just delighted that we managed to get the time to be able to do this. So, thanks once again. And yeah, just hello, everybody, whatever time zone you might be in. It is 6 a.m. for me here, so it's still dark, but yes,
Yeah.
and we're in autumn, so the season is changing.
Yeah. And here I am. I'm 4 p.m. When this is being recorded, and it's springtime. So totally opposite ways of the hemispheres. The what do they call that? The solstice. We're on different solstices entirely, aren't we?
Yes.
Very much so. So I got really interested, first of all, reading your background because, I mean, yes, we've had lots of conversations, but there's some things there that I didn't even realize. And one of those is that you are clairvoyant from a very young age. So maybe tell us a little bit about that as you get started here, please.
Oh, well, I didn't realize it because when you're very young, you don't really know much about what it is that you're seeing. But I could always sense, for example, on the top of my window, the curtain railings, always could sense some beings were there, protective beings watching over me. And I grew up in quite a big house. There were lots of rooms upstairs and downstairs, and I would sometimes run through certain rooms, or get a sense that there were things there that were just around, but I didn't have a clear sense of like who or what they were. And those experiences just got stronger and stronger as I grew older, and I had some very specific experiences in my teens. And my parents knew, and my mum is actually very, very intuitive herself, and she's developed it. And I think she's understanding more over the years, and so have I. So even though it's different, there's a background there. Even my grandmother was very, very, learned and wise and, spiritual. So, it does run in the family.
Absolutely. And you're very fortunate to have that, aren't you?
Yes. Although again, sometimes it did freak them out. So, if I described, because things became clearer, and sometimes I had some very, very clear presences visit me, and you know, when I would describe that, it did freak them out a little bit. And then we had to go to the spiritual person who could then, the equivalent in Pakistan of the person who might be able to shed a bit more light on what it was that I was experiencing.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we could definitely go off on a whole conversation around that alone because people are definitely interested in learning more, so that they can experience from their own point of view what you've experienced, or they can understand that there is so much more out there. However, that's not why we're here today. We're actually here today to learn a little bit more about the runes. So, first of all, explain what runes are for the audience, please.
Okay, so runes are a tool of symbols. They actually date back to the Bronze Age. So they are specific symbols. They're usually carved in stone or on stones, is usually how you might come across them. And the original story behind them is from Norse mythology, which is Scandinavian. And it was the god Odin from Norse mythology who discovered them, and he had to give a sacrifice of himself. He had seen the runes being used by the equivalent of the Fates. They were sort of under the tree of the worlds in a well. That's where the runes were sort of being used or residing, and he had to give a sacrifice in order to be able to access that knowledge that he really wanted to gain. And it's basically they're used in a number of ways. They used to be used as an alphabet, but they're also used as a tool to tap into a higher knowing. So very much like oracle cards or tarot, it's another tool that can be used to be able to access that intuition or higher knowing. Can ask
Yeah.
questions and tap into answers.
Yeah, thank you so much. I personally now feel so much better with your explanation because runes is something that they've always been a very big mystery to me. So I love the background that you've given. As well, I know from our conversations in the past that you've created your own set of runes. Isn't that accurate?
So yes, and that happened quite by chance, or well, let me put it this way: I wasn't intending that to be the outcome. I had bought myself some clay, just ordinary, children's air dry clay for Christmas as a present to myself. And I put it in a drawer and I hadn't used it. And, it was coming round to the next Christmas. I found it and I thought I should do something and just play with the clay. And clay is very tactile as a medium. It's very grounding, and it was fun. So I just started kneading the clay, and the idea sort of popped in, what can I make with this? And then I thought, oh, how about I make my own runes? So I started to fashion them out, and it was fun. And then I realized that shaping them wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. There was a little bit more energy required. And then when I started to inscribe them, I realized I was using a different kind of energy again, because it had switched from that very grounding physical energy to something a little more, based in the sort of upper layers, if you like. And then so I created them, and then I looked at them, and again it was like, well, these look very boring, they're just brown. It doesn't look interesting. And I just thought, well, supposing I painted them, how about colors, and it was in that flow of just being experimental and creative and not really focused on what I was producing. It was more like in that creative flow. And so I thought I'll put colors, and then it was like, but which colors? And then I was like, well, I suppose chakra colors, I'll use the 7 colors of the rainbow. And then I thought, well, I'll match them. So because I've been working with the runes for more than 20 years, I actually know them quite well. And I thought, well, I'll match them loosely. I'll give it a go. I wasn't focused on perfection, getting a complete match completely correctly. It was a loose one. It was like, what do I think this might go with, or where does it sit? And so what I've produced is runes in different colors, and it actually works incredibly well when I'm doing my readings, because what I didn't realize was that those chakra colors add another layer of meaning that is now available to me when I'm giving a reading.
This absolutely fascinates me. So, so maybe explain a little bit about your readings, I guess would be the next step. Okay, let me just take a step backwards here for a moment. I heard you say that you've been doing runes for about 20 years. So when did your runes and chakra runes come into existence, I guess? How long have you been using them?
Okay, so with the runes, sorry, can you just clarify, runes or chakra runes?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I do have different kinds of runes, so I'll show you the different kinds that are available, and talk a little bit more. So you might come across runes that look a bit like this. These are quite common for people to find and buy if they're interested in using it as a tool. It's just a flat stone, and it might just have you can see the inscription there in a black. So, it looks like that. You might also find stones that are, if you can see that, it's an actual, it's an actual stone. Yeah, it's an actual stone. It's, sort of 3-dimensional there, not so flat. And this is obsidian, so you might find that you can get rune stones that are inscribed on different stones, actual stones or crystals. So that's an example. But again, they're sort of monochrome, or you've got the black and then you've got the gold inscription in these ones. But the chakra ones, and I'm sorry if the colors if you can't quite see the colors there. Okay, so these are mine. And they look quite different, as you can see, because they are actually, handcrafted, and the colors look, they look like that. So I've got now these ones that I have handcrafted are new tools, in that I just did this around November, December.
Okay,
I created these.
Okay, so I just want to give people a bearing on this. So at the time of recording, they're about 6 months old for you.
About 6 months old for me. And I actually didn't know this was a thing. I didn't realize that this was something that apparently is already out there. So when I Googled it, I actually found people were using runes for chakra balancing, or getting more information. I didn't realize that, and I do think they may have matched colors as well. But for me, and in my experience, this is still pretty new, okay. As in a new development.
I just want to say something to this, because I think you just hit on something that's really important that will help everybody across everything here. I had the same experience when I discovered that I'm a shaman, and then I went and I did a basic shaman course. Everything that I learned, or everything that I was being taught at the basic shaman course, I was already doing. So what I'm hearing you say is that you were doing something, and then when you went to see about it, you realized that it was other people were doing it as well. What I'm trying to say with this is that um, there's a bigger picture going on here. Yes, we may be the first one doing something in our own way, with our own personality, with our own energy, but collectively, this is something that could be very ancient, correct?
It
Yeah.
could be, and we don't know when you see runic inscriptions in stone from, say, the Bronze Age, very ancient, and you don't know if they had colors or not. Like I wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know that. It could be that they were colored and the colors have faded. So that's quite right. But it seemed very intuitive to me also, because the runes do they are very earth based, as in from the natural world, or aspects of
Mm.
the human self, or elements, water, fire, um, the weather, ice, hail, different trees, the 1 year cycle for the harvest. So, and the ancestors, and, fertility and things like that. So there are all these different aspects that, the different symbols represent these different aspects, and aspects of self. So, there is joy, there is pain, those sorts of things. So actually, if you unpack it in that way, it's not a huge leap then to
Yeah.
to match the colors up with the runes. It On reflection, it's pretty natural, but it wasn't a premeditated move.
I love this. I will have to tell you that I'm yawning and yawning and yawning, and it's not like I'm tired. There's definitely some sort of shift is happening because I'm sitting in the energy with you. When I close my eyes, it's so interesting because it's almost like I can feel this lineup of runes happening in my chakras right now, and that's just by sitting in your presence of your energy. So you are very talented. I just am loving this. Wow.
Thank you, thank you. And I should also say that I'm self-taught. So when I discovered the runes, or rather, the runes discovered me. So that's the other thing. A lot of people, when I say I read runes, are quite surprised, because I didn't also realize how rare it it is. It seems to be quite rare as a tool for people to use. So, I tell people I read runes, and I get this reaction, oh, and they want to know, how did I start using the runes? And I always say, well, they chose me. I didn't actually choose them consciously. Again, it was, when my husband and I got married, I found the set that I still have today. So these flat ones that I have actually belong to him. He just never used them. So there was a book and the runes, and I picked them up, and I was curious, and I just started looking at them, and then they were so accurate, and they have been consistently accurate for that amount of time, that I just used them and used them. And at that time, I wasn't sure, I didn't know where that knowledge was coming from, but I know now where that is coming from. And I'll just go back to your previous question, because you did ask me, how do I give a reading?
Yeah.
And what I do is, so somebody comes to me, it's better if they have a question, for example. I don't need to know the question. In fact, often I say to them, don't tell me what it is, but just hold the intention. You ask the question silently, and you hold that intention. And basically, I do a little invocation, and I'll pull a spread of runes, and I'll do 4. The first one that I pull is the overall situation. that sheds light, or like in a overall sort of way. And then I pull three, and it can be past, present, and future, or it can be the present situation, what action might be needed to move forward, and then an outcome, or based on obviously choice, and what is the best at this moment in time.
So now I'm guessing that you have two sets of runes, or three. Actually, I saw you basically have three sets of runes for sure. Um, is it something that's very open, like when people do oracle or tarot cards? You maybe let the person decide, or that set of runes lets you know that they're the ones that want to be involved in this reading. How does that work?
Yes. So for about 20 years, I only had one set. And it's the set that was, I guess my learning set, and they taught me how to use them, and very close to my heart. So and then I discovered, that actually they can look different. Here's a completely different kind of set. And you're right. At that point, when I had the two sets, it would be, which one do I want to use today? It is quite personal because, as I said, the first set feel like my teacher, so has a different sort of, place or energy, I guess. But it's sort of the wise master teacher. And then the second one is, I haven't, to be honest, haven't used them a lot, but yes, it would be, I feel like I need to be using this set today. But to be honest, since I created my own, when I use them, I just get so much more information using the set that I've created. And also with the colors, as I said, just much, much more information comes through for me in a way that I can access it more quickly. So I've been using mainly those for other people. And the first set, I usually use for myself. And the second is, if they want to come out.
So I have a little bit more background kind of question around runes. I heard you use the word seven, but that was with regards to chakras. Are there only seven runes, or are there how many runes are in a set?
Yeah, they're usually 24. They're known as, and I may not pronounce this correctly, but the Elder Futhark is the set of 24 runes that you will commonly find if you're interested in going to get a set. 24 runes, and then there will be a 25th rune, which is essentially, in my set, it looks like this. It's a blank rune. This is a little controversial amongst some rune readers because they don't necessarily feel that the blank rune was an original rune. So the other 24 symbols, they date back, and have been used historically, and you can date them back linguistically and that sort of thing. But the blank rune is a rune that was added, but I personally think that it adds a great deal of value because it's the sort of blank rune of destiny. It's the unknowable. It's when things are happening, but big, something big is happening and you're not allowed to know what it is. But I actually think it's right. It allows you to write your own script. So for me, when I see that, it's quite a significant rune, so I use it.
Yeah, I can feel the power in that. I feel now that some people may be limiting themselves by not using it, but you've really opened yourself up to the possibilities by using it. Very powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as I said, the runes are used together. I mean, you can use them individually. Give me an overview of something quick, you know. But when you use them together, it sort of, you can read off the set, if that makes sense. And also in the symbols, some runes are nested in other runes. So for example, there's this rune which looks like a single staff,
Okay.
and then that will be present in other runes as well. So for example, you might have this rune, and I'm sorry if you can't see it very well, but it has the staff in the center, but then it has the two angles. So in the symbols, you get other symbols, which again adds to that layer of meaning. And also you can use runes upright or reversed. So there are reversals when you're reading, and they do alter the meaning as well if you see them reversed. So you can do upright and reversed. But for me, I've become a little bit more flexible with it, and so sometimes if they come out sideways, I might be able to read them sideways as well. So
I love you being open about that. There is a beautiful deck of tarot cards that I believe probably both of us are very familiar with. An incredible artist created them, Sue Kovacs, known now by Susie Bellamy because she's been remarried. And her tarot cards, I literally tell people to move them in all directions, even diagonally, because you just don't know what you're going to see in there. And if you open yourself up to looking at them in a different way, the information that comes through can be really magical, very powerful. Yeah. I do want to ask you a question about what. Let me just think here, because I'm getting directed to ask two questions. The first question is what, if you feel comfortable divulging, what is the most powerful experience that you personally have had with your chakra rune cards, chakra runes? I mean.
oh, um, I suppose I mean I it's always I'm always in the flow when I'm using them. So it's a bit difficult for me to identify a single encounter or event because um, they're just quite special. Although I did um, show them recently to, I love to get readings as well myself. And I showed them to a reader, and she happened to be Swedish, and so she had never had a rune reading herself, although she was a reader, and she got very excited. And I showed her the runes, and she sort of looked at them, and she said, she could see that they have this energy of their own, and she said they look very magical and, like a treasure, almost like a treasure. And I keep them in this little zip bag, and I'd never thought of them like that. And I suppose I felt very blessed in that moment to think that, um, you know, I suppose up until now, I had only thought of them as tools, but to think of them as a treasure. And she also said to me, they really want to be expressed. The runes want to be expressed. And again, this shifted my perspective on them because I thought, well, then, of course, they would want to be colorful and bright and, on display and to show themselves off. And it just lifted the energy of them. And also, I think the way that I was uh, thinking about them, because then I thought, oh, okay, that shifts it again. They're not just a tool. They have their energy and they want to be expressed. So, and I'm assisting in that, and so it changes the nature of what I'm doing as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. What I'm hearing you say is that when someone is saying something very powerful about what you're doing or what you've created, you are embracing that and letting it take you to another expansion of your own ability with that tool. Wow, beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also got me thinking that, you know, at the moment I've matched them in a particular way, but I can create another set and match them differently and then see what happens with that because, you know, again, it's fluid. It doesn't have to be set in stone, right? Even things that are inscribed in stone, they can, it's that fluidity again, and again, such a reflection of the natural world that they represent. So
Beautiful.
it's a sort of creative experimental process.
Yeah. If people wanted to reach out to you, I put your website on the bottom here. Now, what what would they? I just like using the word expect. So, what would the steps be with doing a chakra rune reading with you? I see you've got a couple different ones. You've got a mini and then a larger one, right?
Yes, that's right. I mean, the mini one I would advise because it's on
Oh dear, you're freezing.
the first reading because really the
I'm
45-minute one.
going to stop you for a minute. Can you tell me that again because you froze for that whole thing? When
Oh,
after I said
sorry.
the mini reading, just start right from the beginning of whatever you said there, please.
Okay, sure. So a mini reading is only 30 minutes, and I wouldn't recommend that one for the first reading because really I'm offering that is an offering to those who are already familiar with having a rune reading and they just want a quick yes or no answer to maybe one or two very short questions. But I would recommend going for the longer reading of 45 minutes to start with because it allows to um, really the um, set up the reading and also to go into a little more detail and more depth for that person and get comfortable with the tools that I'm using and familiar. So it allows me to explain the runes and set it up and then um, basically, as I mentioned, you come with a question or a set of questions. I don't need to know what they are, and I do the four spread. And then, of course, if there are more questions or more information that's coming through, it'll just flow from that point.
Love it. I love it. Is there anything else that you would like to add to this?
Oh, just that it's such a pleasure to talk to you, Sandra, and I am just so thrilled to be here today and have this opportunity and at the right time for both of us. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this, um, with you and your community.
Thank you so much for being a part of this step into the light, step into your life, because I have been really witnessing you do that in the conversations that we've had, and to be able to really show you and showcase you and your gifts to the world. It's my honor. It truly is my honor as well. So thank you for being here. Well, everybody, you know how to find her. I'll put up the website one more time for you there. Zheela, you are just a shining light, and I really look forward to watching more
Oh,
expansion come from you. Beautiful soul. Thank you.
thank you.